Jamie Carragher says Manchester United to sell Rashford and consider selling Bruno Fernandes. He said United should sell Rashford as he is not delivering value for his lucrative contract. He's 27 now, should be in his prime, and the United will never win the Premier League or Champions League if he's leading the line. A bold statement there. He even said on Bruno, selling him must be a consideration. He creates a lot of chances but can be indisciplined without the ball. Earlier in the season, Gary Neville did stick up for Rashford when he had an argument about it with Carragher, saying he's a 30-goal striker winger. Getting back to that, we know Rashford's not an attacker. He's a left-sided forward. Quite unique. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about what Neville and Carragher have said with Adam, who will be joining me. And then we're going to list out what Man United players we'd be selling in 2025, and then which players we think, because we've got to be realistic. Unfortunately, we can't sell most of them. Would we say actually they could do a job for another season instead of 2026? But before I get into that, Adam, how are you doing? How are you feeling after yesterday?
A lot better. It looked like it was going down that doom and gloom road, Alice. I'm not going to beat around the bush. Andre Onana, I've given him his flowers this season, but he is doing my head in right now and costing us big time, amongst other players. But changes. We've got a coach who is ballsy enough to make big calls. He is charismatic and I think inspires. And I think we've seen that in the substitutions that were made yesterday, and they made the big difference. And more importantly, Alice, we're into the automatic promotion places. We could put Europe to bed for a month now, concentrate on domestic football, all because he had it in him to make them calls and make the right choices that were needed and necessary in that game. And I do feel a little bit more optimistic now because at least we finished that game really strongly last night. And just happy to get a win again, Alice.
Oh, completely agree. The first half was one of the worst things I've ever seen, especially when it's against an opposition like that. I was thinking this is not good enough. The second half was a lot better. And as you said, Ruben Amorim isn't afraid to make big calls, isn't afraid to make substitutions. And I think that's what I'm liking the most about him, getting everybody involved, no favoritism. And, talking of big calls here, Jamie Carragher's come out with a statement that Man United should sell Rashford and consider selling Bruno. And I thought you'd be a really good guest to have on to talk about this because I've been very lenient with Marcus Rashford and I get a lot of stick with it. Now, I can say he was crap yesterday. He was awful, and it frustrates me because I'm someone that's always tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. I've always tried to believe, look, he's the only player in this Man United squad that's ever scored over 20 goals in a season, and he's got over 30 once. I'm like, if we can unlock him, there is a player there that can score. He's obviously better than Anthony, so we've got to have priorities over who we can sell. But then he is on this massive contract, and I think some of it is Rashford has to unlock himself. We can talk all about the system and environment because if we get that right and you get Rashford back in form, there is a good player there. But if Rashford, against Victoria Pleasant isn't even taking on his man, as someone that has backed Rashford, that makes me worried. And I've always said, for me, my opinion on whether we should sell Rashford in the summer depends on what he does between now and the end of the season. He has to turn it around. If he doesn't, we have to sell him. Whereas when it comes to Bruno Fernandes, I think that Bruno Fernandes is one of the only players in the squad that isn't rubbish, to be honest. I mean, him and Ahmad, I think, are the only players that are really creating anything. And I think, is Bruno a long-term fit for Amorim's system? No. Is Bruno old? Yes. And I think Bruno's one of those players where I think I couldn't sell him in 2025 because there's so many players we need to get out the door and there's so little quality. And I think Bruno has too much quality to sell this summer when that's what we lack. But I think summer 2026, when you think of his age and long-term fit for Amorim's system, and hopefully we're a bit more stable this time next year, he could be one to sell. So I was quite interested to know what your opinion was on this quote.
Yeah, on the Bruno one, first of all, quickly, I would say, like you said there, Bruno Fernandes, his age, he isn't the future of Manchester United. I think we can definitely say that. But in Amorim's situation right now, where he needs that energy and that creativity, which you alluded to there, Alice, you've got to look at the next year. Can we utilise Bruno Fernandes? Is he the right age? Yeah, of course. He's in his prime right now. He's just turning 30. Obviously, he's got this big contract, but we know he's not going to be the future. But for the next year, can he help Ruben Amorim? 100% he can. And you just said it then. There is at least a dozen players in that squad that are before Bruno Fernandes on the out list. So Bruno definitely for the next year, maybe couple at most. And then you look past it. But within that year, you can plan. and you can sort of try and find that right perfect replacement. Because let's be honest, if you sell Bruno this summer, I don't think there's an out-and-out replacement for his output,
Yeah, I
what he
agree.
brings us there in the market right now. So future planning, Bruno's going nowhere. I think we need to just be honest.
Yeah.
If you like him or if you don't, I think you just look at everything that's in play right now. Bruno's staying for obvious reasons.
100%.
Marcus, he's a different ball game. You know how strong I am on Marcus Rashford. Alice, I'll just take you back to Ruben Amorim a couple of weeks ago, and our coach has said it himself. He has to be Marcus Rashford first. He has to want to be Marcus Rashford. He's lost Troy Deeney last night. It was a brutal quote from him when he came out and said, "I'm just disappointed in him. He had the makings of being a great player. He's going to end up like Jesse Lingard." And that alone there says everything as to how good Marcus Rashford was and the fall off of the player. Jamie Carragher is right. United need to sell. They need to sell very quickly. He doesn't want to be there. The chance was there for him last night against lesser opposition. He didn't want to know, Alice. I looked at the stats. I did a show after that game last night. Mason Mount doubled the amount of shots that Xerxes and Rashford put together had in his cameo on the pitch in 25 minutes. Rasmus Højlund quadrupled them. The energy and just the sheer effort, Alice. And you can say misprofiling Xerxes, not playing as a number 9. He's not a number 9. He naturally falls away from it. But Rashford, like you just said then, he won't take his man on. He's too scared. If you're playing scared, then you've got a problem. Whether it's his own discipline or mental issues off the pitch or whatever he's got, I don't know with him right now, but he's not there. I said, and my sort of roundup of Rashford right now was I think Manchester's done for him. For him, I think he needs a change of scenery. He needs a change of environment. It isn't going to get any better for him here. Ruben Amorim hasn't got the time to give him that other managers have, and this is where it's different. So when you look at everything, you could have your own personal opinion from years gone by. I don't think it's significant right now. We've seen how gun-happy Sir Jim Ratcliffe is and how much he wants results instantly. Ruben Amorim right now, he said it in his press conference before the game. He said, if I don't win, I get sacked. He hasn't got time. This has all changed. The environment at United with Ineos has changed everything. And the outlook right now is, okay, let's get everyone out there on a table. My partner Kaz said the best way. Remember, I think it's, is it X Factor or something like that, the program where they put all of the cards of the contestants on a table.
Oh, yeah.
The sliding the ones off they don't want. It's like, get the United squad on a table and start being real. Like, would this team go out and win you, let's say, for instance, an important Premier League game or a Europa League final? Who are you picking? Slide the players out that you don't think are going to be in your starting lineup, and then let's make a decision on them as to who can be sold and who can be sold at a value and get us money in. I think that's where we're at right now. It is such a crossroad moment, and I think a huge moment for Manchester United's future. And I'm not surprised all of the rumours about selling Rashford have come about. I'm really not. It isn't working for him. He's had every opportunity, Alice, to change it around. But the worst thing out of all of it, he just doesn't look like he wants to be there. And we have had our opinions in the past, like I said. But right now, Neville, Carragher, Troy Deeney, every radio station, every outlet, every social media account, they're all saying the same thing. Everybody knows where we're at with him right now. It's not about personal opinion and picking out little bits of qualities in his game anymore. It's just a sheer fact that he just doesn't look like he wants to play football. That's the problem. And we have to sell him quickly, for me, before he completely falls off, Alice, because then no one's going to want him. Right now, we've got, PSG, Bayern and Barcelona with an interest in him.
Even Arsenal rumours.
Yeah, so I think this is the time. Like, you have to learn how to sell a player. Yes, that sounds a bit crazy, and saying how to learn to sell him, but you just sell a player, obviously. But
yeah, we hold on to them for too long sometimes.
Yeah, there's a time to sell them, and United have been poor at that in the past. There's a time to let players go. You look at all the big clubs, Ellis; they all seem to move the players on at the right time and get value for them. I think we've got one more year left of getting it right with Rashford. He has to be gone by the summer at the latest.
So I agree with a lot of what you're saying, because I'm someone that has really backed Rashford. I said, you know what, for me, he gets a completely clean slate under the new manager. You know, everyone gets a clean slate with a new manager, and I'm going to judge every player of what they do between now and the end of the season. And if Marcus Rashford can turn it around, I'd want him to stay and be part of the project, because I believe there's a player there. But the problem is, when you look at how he couldn't even take on his man versus Victoria Pleasant, as someone that wants Rashford to turn it around and believes there's a player there, I'm struggling a little bit now. I'm like, if he can't show it up versus Victoria, please, and if he's, not giving it, and I think it's not even about Rashford's ability. We know what could be there, but it's the fact that he looks so mentally disengaged. And I think, as you mentioned that earlier, I think that's the problem. As someone that has really tried to give Rashford the benefit of the doubt, because I do think he has become a bit of a scapegoat. There'll be games that we're playing crap in, and Rashford didn't even start that game, and then at the end of the game, it's all pile on Rashford. And I think I've tried to be a bit protective of him because I think he's a bit of a scapegoat for everything going on at the club. But him and Onana were the worst two players on the pitch yesterday. It doesn't take a genius to figure that out. And I think my biggest concern with Rashford is there's so much that we can do by sorting out the environment, bringing in a new manager, but he also has to do that other 50%. And that is whatever's in his head, whatever's happening in his head, he needs to snap out of, because as you alluded to, it doesn't look like he wants to be on the pitch. He doesn't look like he's enjoying football. Mason Mount comes on and he's running and he's bringing that intensity. And as we spoke about before we went live, we thought Mason Mount was quite actually good off the pitch. A lot of what his off the ball and energy was. And I think the physicality that Højlund brought and the off the ball legs that Mount brought, because Pleasant just tried to make the game as physical as they could, that really did change the game. And as someone that is try to give Rashford any benefit of the doubt, if he's jogging around like that, not even taking on his man versus that kind of side, it is so difficult, because I think there's confidence there, but it's got to come from him. And I think sometimes I sit there and I think, I really wanted to turn it around at United, and he's got to do something between now and the end of the season. If you look at how he played yesterday, it doesn't fill with confidence. I think he could get his career back on track, definitely, if he went to another club, a new environment, new system for sure. But if he wants to get his career back on track at Man United, he's going to have to pull something together fast, and he's going to have to get out of that mental block.
Yeah, and that's the thing now. Like I said, Alice, the biggest thing with it is he's not going to get time because of the situation and the scenario. It's like Rasmus Højlund. Yeah, you could say, look, anyone can score goals at certain times and get them in batches. Rasmus Højlund, obviously 5 and 5 with 1 assist under Amorim right now. You can't really argue with that. And you could say, look, Rashford previously to this in his 2 starts has scored 3 goals. It's the attitude off the bench, I think, what Amorim's looking for. And right now, if I was to ask you, Alice, for me, I think there's only one player that starts at number 9, which is Rasmus.
Yeah.
We have to look after him. The 10s right now, Xerxes or Rashford, no, not for me. I'm looking at it and going, unless he's going to accept as well that he's going to be a bit part player and not number 1 pick, which I think is his issue at the moment, there's no chance of him even thinking about turning it around the rest of this season, because he's not going to dislodge. He lost his number 9 place in 1 game with Amorim. Yeah. He lost that in 1 game because Amorim pretty much nailed him. He said this isn't a role for him. He tried to use the excuse of saying there's 2 big centre-backs there at Ipswich. Honestly, Alice, who hasn't got big centre-backs in the Premier League? They're all bleeding monsters. They're all going to bully Rashford. I mean, I seen Rashford yesterday turn his back to go with his hands in the air like that to someone clearing the ball. And then Agate comes on and takes one in the face. He needs warriors right now, Ruben Amorim. And yeah, goals win games and everything like that, but Rashford isn't doing the basics. Rasmus Højlund came on, ran. So did Mount. Anthony. I would have Anthony ahead of Rashford right now, Alice. That's where I'm at with him.
Jeez, that's a statement when you bring Anthony up there as well. But as I said, completely agree with what you said on Bruno. And I think with Rashford, it's a little bit worrying, I think, because he just doesn't look there and he's not going to be given the time and he's got to snap out of it. And I've sort of done this list here of who to sell in 2025, then who to sell in 2026. And then some of them are 50-50s, depends on form, fitness, or just what happens in the next few years. And I've put Eriksen, Lindelof and Evans there because I think whatever happens, them leaving is a given. You could probably put Bay and Deer in there as well. I think he's probably off. But is there anyone else that stands out to you that 2025, they've got to go?
2025. So, as in, are we going January and
January and summer? Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Here we go. Settle self in. Let's get ready to go. Okay. Definite goes. 100% with you on them. I would add in there, I would put Anthony in there, 100%.
Yeah, agree.
He has to go. Rashford has to go, obviously, for me as well. I think making money. In this scenario right now, I'm also looking at this as trying to raise money to bring in better players.
Yeah.
I'll save some for the 50-50 because there's some that I'm really concerned about at the moment. But Harry Maguire needs to go as well for me.
Yeah, too many
We
wages.
need to move on. Yeah, we're going to look at wages there. Casemiro is another one that has
It's the
to be sold.
wages, the lack of legs. I think it doesn't suit
And him
Amorim long term.
not, I said it before, Alice, if he's not a first team player, he is a first, sorry, I said that right. He's not a first 11 player, then he needs to be on the list. Anyone who's
100%.
not knocking on the door and giving the manager a headache, he's not going to stay at the club.
Agate is the DM. That is sorted. The way he was so much better when he's on the pitch, and it's
Well, you look at it right now. When you go into a situation at centre back, for instance, you look at De Ligt or Yoro. Neither of them are going because they're both playing well and they're both taking their opportunities off the bench.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm deciding this on. I'm looking at Rashford coming on or starting and doing nothing. Off he goes. Xerxes, I'll stick to my 2-year rule with Xerxes because I don't think it's fair, but I think the circumstances again are going to dictate. But I think he will be gone 2026. Xerxes. I just don't see it working out for him. United will go out and spend in the forward areas. I think we will get a 10. I think we will get another 9, and that for me puts him further down the pecking order. There is a club and there is a style of play and a league that suits Xerxes.
Yeah, 100%.
It's not England at the moment. It really isn't. And he's lost, I think, right now. He's giving me more than Rashford, tell him that, but he looks a bit lost for me. I think they're the definites for 2025. What
about Shaw or Malacia? Was that a bit of a fitness thing?
Shaw and Malacia, I think, are 50-50 because we've not seen them play properly yet.
I think that's fair. I think if Luke Shaw stays fit, we know, at left centre-back, you've got a player.
Yeah, I mean, what's Shaw worth? Shaw's worth, what, 15 million max at 29? Shaw and Malacia are definitely in there. In that 50-50, Alice, I'm going to have to put in there Dalot.
Do you know what? I agree.
He's got value as well. He's struggling. He's really struggling with wing-back play.
I agree.
Don't see him fitting in anywhere else on the pitch like other players have either, though. I think that's his one position, and it doesn't suit him.
He's one of the players that is a good player. He's technically quite good. He's physically quite good. He's got the work rate, but he's the player that's suffering because of the system. Like in a back four, he's a solid player. And I said maybe because he's never been good in a final third. I've always thought he was more better defensively. Maybe right centre back, but Mazraoui and Yoro are there, so it's like, well, you don't really need him. But I'm almost at the point where I think Mazraoui is better going forward, so maybe swap them around. But I completely agree. I like Dalot, technically good, physically good, can cover ground. I think Amorim will take a liking to him, but he doesn't get in my best starting 11, and he struggles because it's so attacking. He doesn't have the final third output. And the only way I can sort of describe Dalot's long-term role in the system is being our equivalent of like a Joe Gomez. So at Liverpool, when Trent got injured and Bradley was injured, Joe Gomez comes in at right back. He played a lot of left back when Robertson was injured last season. And now that Konate's injured, he's playing centre back. And he's someone that can fill in all around the back. And he's good, but he doesn't get in your best starting 11. And I feel Dalot could be very good for depth because he could play left wing back if there's an injury, or right wing back, or right centre back. But he doesn't get in my best starting 11 right now. And I worry about him because I don't think he's a bad player. And I think people are being a bit reactionary about him and to turn on him and call him trash when we know there's actually a good player there, but he doesn't suit the system. So I agree with you there.
No, that decision will be made by Ineos and Ruben Amorim. I did a video the other day about Ruben Amorim compiling a list and profiling and reporting on every single player in his squad, giving the value to that player, however he thinks they add value to the squad, and they're going to be used a lot. And then I think Ineos will use that and therefore take that into the summer. And like we've seen on all the reports this week, all of the staff within Ineos' structure are tasked with getting rid of these players. They need to be a bit more cutthroat and brutal in getting these players out of the door. And I think that's why we're talking the way we are right now. And it's like, even the players like Garnacho are not safe anymore. There's calls for him because he's 100% market value with being a homegrown talent as well. And he does carry value, and he isn't learning. I said with Garnacho, I think I am in the realm of another year and see how he progresses and judge him next year. I'd not giving up on Garnacho at all. I don't want him. Yeah, I don't want him to go yet. A lot of people are arguing with me on my channel about Garnacho just not rating him at all. But I think that is a bit of a knee-jerk reaction type of
Yeah, he's so
response at the
young.
moment.
I think
Yeah.
he's one
Only
of those
turning 20, Alice. I mean, there's time there, isn't there? And let's be honest,
100%.
who is going to buy him? Real Madrid are not going to take him. He's not going to get anywhere near that Madrid side right now.
Yeah.
He needs to develop more. If anything, I think United can look at it and go, right, we get rid of Rashford. That is point proven to every man in this squad that nobody is safe. Even the pin-up boy of Manchester and Manchester United, Rashford, is not safe in this team. Egos are out of the window. Let's try and nurture him. Let's try and help him at this early age now, because there is promise in him and he is the future. He's not on massive
100%.
wages. He's not going to cost us anything because he's in a deal now for 5 years. His wages are not going to go up from 50 grand a week. He's exactly where he is and where he needs to be. If you've got a 20-year-old academy player in your squad on 50 grand a week who's already got, I think it's around about 12 or 13 goal involvements this summer, on paper, Ineos will look at that and go, he's actually where he needs to be. If we can get more
100%.
out of him in the next year, then we may have a conversation about it if someone comes in, because big sales like that, and we know the South American players and the love affair with Spain and Barcelona and Real Madrid. The question might come around in time with Garnacho, but honestly, nowhere near yet for me that man should be leaving Manchester United. The players that have had their time, and Dalot falls into that category, sadly, because he's coming up around
older,
7 years now. It's a
Yeah,
long time
Mourinho.
to be unconvinced by him after 7 years. I think like a lot of the fan base in our club, Alice, have been sidetracked by the standards and the dropping standards and bigging up players that are probably better than what are probably not as good as what we're actually thinking.
Yeah.
And it's that I hate the question, but who would buy him? Like, would he get into one of the big sides? If Madrid come calling for him, then there's definitely a player there. But
yeah,
I don't think we can carry him right now on the stage that we're
he's
at.
A solid player, but he doesn't suit the system. And I 100% agree with what you said on Garnacho. I think we can't judge him until next season, really. And I saw someone tweet something and it said, maybe we shouldn't judge our really young players that have been thrown into chaotic environment, i.e. the Maino, the Højlunds, the Garnachos, the Euros, because when they're that young and your big team players can't perform, it's so difficult to rely on the youth. I mean, I thought Maino was all right in the Forest game, but I saw people very negative about him. And I said, I think Maino's coming back from injury. The fact a small percentage of the people turning on Maino just shows how reactionary I think people can be in the emotion. And I think for me, with Garnacho, there's a good player there. It doesn't take a genius to tell you there's a good player there. He likes to take on his man, make things happen. And that's what he liked about Garnacho. He was electric. But then Ten Hag started him 30-odd games in a row last season, ran him to the ground. That wasn't doing him any good. We had to, because Rashford didn't show up, Antony didn't show up. He was our best winger last season. But it wasn't normal for him to be us being that reliant on him. And I felt that actually the first, I'm going to say 7-8 games of the season, I thought Garnacho was excellent, because he probably only started 4 of the first 8 games of the season, had 4 coming off the bench. And I thought that he was quite fresh and quite impactful. And I think if we can manage his minutes, I think he can be a good player. The only question is, he was one of the players I thought with Ten Hag leaving might actually suffer a bit with Amorim coming in, like Dalot, because he's always been a touchline winger, which is what Ten Hag wanted. A little bit like Antony was. So it's like, is he good enough for wing back defensively? I mean, right now, I wouldn't mind him at left wing back or Antony at left wing back, because at least we'd have something maybe in the final third, which Dalot was lacking. Even Antony with his left foot, he might be better on the left. You never know at left wing back.
I would still have Dalot ahead of Garnacho in the wing back role. I actually don't think he's got the right amount of energy. That sounds crazy for Garnacho. Physically, I don't think he's got it, and that worries me defensively. And I just wouldn't even risk him. This comes into what you just said, Alice. Like, with a system that Ruben Amorim is putting forward at Manchester United and implementing, there are players that are going to suffer, and sometimes you naturally have to look at the ones that are prospering right now, like Mazraoui, going from one position to another, constantly changing all of the time because he's got that football IQ. Sadly, some players just don't have that in them. They don't have enough in them to adapt to another role. They are one position players, and that's fine. There are brilliant players across the planet of all time that have actually just played in one position. That's it, and that's all they can play. I personally don't like versatile players. I don't. I just think they're there filling gaps, and they're not the best you can have in that position. You need them. You need them obviously for rotation and other purposes in when you're in a bit of a spot injury wise and things like that. But right now, I'm just looking in Amorim's system, like who suits every single position best. Garnacho, honestly, it's a concern.
It's the worrying one, yeah.
Because he naturally drifts. If you notice, he naturally drifts wide as well, even in his role as a 10, instead of being closer to the forward. And I think this is where he's got a bit lost. He's still young enough to learn, though, and this is the point we're trying to make.
Yeah, he can be moulded into it, potentially.
He can learn it. It's not like he's had year and year at the top level playing in one role and he cannot handle or like sort of manage to change his game and adapt to another position. He will get the time. United will work with him. And I think he will get better under Ruben Amorim. I just think it's going to be a short-term loss for him right now, a long-term gain. But Rasmus Højlund, in terms of judging our players, Alice, you cannot fault the guy. I mean, he's 9 off already, matching last season's total, and we said that was a good season. He's doing well.
When he gets service, he scores. Like, you just need to.
Alice, I'll ask you on this quickly. Like, 6-yard box. How often was he in that 6-yard box last night? Just
movement
poaching.
Was better, like, because he missed it. He missed when was it Bruno that put in that unbelievable ball?
Just a bit behind it.
Because I always say whenever you get service, he scores because he is clinical. And I was like, how is Højlund missing that? But the fact that he got that chance, his movement was a lot better. And I think we spoke about players. I think it was with you actually that we think are really going to improve a level under Ruben Amorim. I think Højlund, Ugarte, Mason Mount. I think were the 3 that we sat there and went, these guys. When you look at Ugarte's system, they were. And I think he's got in 4 starts under Amorim 5 goals, 1 assist. I mean, that is very good output, especially when you realise the pretty much crap he's playing with in the final third, because Bruno and Ahmad are the only 2 players, because I think they've got all of our assists lately, honestly, like proper assists. They're the only players that can actually create in this squad or put a good ball in or put a good cross in, because we haven't got that output really from the wing backs unless it's obviously Ahmad playing there. And I thought Ahmad was obviously excellent, best wing back, best 10 at the moment. I mean, we need more Ahmads, but I'm going to ask you on a few more players that are a bit more debatable. Now, one of them is Onana, another one is Mason Mount, in terms of where you think they could fit.
Mount 100% in that 10 role. I love him there. I think it suits him down to the ground. When we talk about football IQ, that's the level up. Mason Mount, his movement off the ball is better than anybody else's in our front line.
That's why we need him.
Scary to think that this player, who was seen as one of the players that we should sell in the summer in a lot of fans' eyes, and was a player that we just didn't know when or how he was going to fit into a Ten Hag side, is now the best player in our front line when it comes to movement. He is superb at finding the space, moving off the ball.
Makes
intricate 1-2 play and short passing in and around, intelligent play. And we've seen it a couple of times, like he did. He's done it twice, basically, in the Europa League, and been involved in our best moments in the Europa League, like Bodo Glimt for Amorim in the goals in that game at Old Trafford, and obviously last night against Victoria, it was the same thing again. They just didn't know where he was and didn't know how to pick him up. Mount, definitely, if he stays like this, and Ruben Amorim is looking after him at the moment, and this is what I love about him. Yeah, he's not playing him a full 90 minutes. He hasn't started much, but he is getting more and more game time as it goes on, and he is doing exactly what we hoped Rashford would do. Unfortunately for Rashford, Mason Mount is younger. He knows this is probably his last chance at the top level, definitely for getting back into England. If you cannot prosper under Ruben Amorim, if you cannot prosper under Ruben Amorim, then there's no hope for you, I don't think, because you've seen the amount of players that have succeeded under. If you listen to this guy, you will get better. And we know that Mount's got the talent. We've got proof in it before. And Arne, on the other hand, honestly, is my third choice keeper in our keepers right now, Alice. I really don't rate him. I tried to give him his praise. He's had a good start to the season. He's had some good saves, Golden Glove and all of that. It's their moments, but his kicking is the worst. His distribution is the worst I've ever seen in a goalkeeper. And I thought David De Gea was bad. This guy takes the biscuit. And I actually heard Victoria Pilsen's manager last night at his press conference, and he said the game plan, one of his game plans was shoot from anywhere. Just shoot. That was a game plan. So the opposition are looking at United's weak point as Onana in goal.
Yeah, the long
and
shots.
Press. Why would you, as a keeper, in a 4-on-4 press against you, try and pass it to any of them players? That you cannot coach. whatever system you're putting in play, I think it was Savage who said it in the commentary last night. You cannot tell a goalkeeper in their moments what to do. He has to have the IQ to play the right pass and make the right decision. He just doesn't. He'd done this last season. He got Casemiro sent off against Galatasaray at home. He'd done exactly the same tonight. He cannot pass. And his long-range kicking is atrocious, Alice, as well. It really is. I think he had 78% pass accuracy for a keeper.
I've been disappointed with that.
Often. That's poor.
Because I think we brought him in to be a bit better on the ball, and that's what we're disappointed about. Wow. I think if it wasn't for Forest and Victoria Pleasant, it would have been in my top 3 performers this season because of how bad everyone's been and some saves he's made. And
we've said it on my channel. We've been solid with him. We're putting him straight in. Since we put him straight in, he's just gone completely downhill.
He's got mistakes in him, and it's like, if he can get those mistakes out and do what he did before the last week to the end of the season and next season, it's not like a priority. But again, I think with Onana, he's one that I wouldn't sell in the summer, but he's one that if this time next year he's making mistakes again, you might have to say, in 2026, do we look at a new keeper? You look at Chelsea, they need a new keeper because their first team's quite good. But you look at United and you think left wing back, maybe even a right wing back because Ahmad's so good at 10, a midfielder with legs because Eriksen and Casemiro have got to go, Rashford replacement, left centre back, a bit of physicality maybe because Maguire, Evans, Lindelof are going to go. There's so much to do that for me, we can't even look at really sort of goalkeeper in the summer or even Bruno Fernandes replacements as we sort of spoke about earlier. Now, while you were talking, I sort of, I've got rid of you there. I compiled this together with the players that if they stay fit, which is Mount and Shaw, I think the other ones have quite good fitness records. These are the ones that I think are going to be safe for the next probably 2 years, depending on form. Maybe a Nana, De Ligt, Shaw, fitness, all of that. But would you agree with that?
Yeah, just looking at that now. Leach and Shaw, yes. Yoro, De Ligt, Mazraoui. Yeah, I definitely agree. Like the one on the left-hand side is obviously going to be an Alphonso Davies. Dare I say it, Diego Leon? I don't know. That's a bit of a shout for us.
I could see a Carragher potentially.
Yeah, I do believe we will buy one more. Obviously, United scouts were at the Benfica Bologna game as well.
Yes.
And another man of the match performance for Alvaro Fernandes. So that one is really going to be testing Man United's resolve, I think, going into the summer. There's so many left wing back options for us to go for, though, Alice. So that's
a good market.
Positive for the summer. And it's interesting how you left that void there. Yes, I agree with that team. And you can see where the money needs to be spent. Like centre-back, I had it down as our most key position to bring players in. I've moved away from it just in how Amorim is managing this squad right now. I would say key positions, the 4 I would go for this summer, left wing-back, 8, 10 and 9. They would be, that's where I would spend my money. Definitely now, that's where I spend my money. Because I think we are going to lose players in them areas with this transfer window. So with that in mind, I think that's my positions. Obviously, I want a keeper. I think eventually we need another right wing back. But then again, Mazraoui could play there for the time being for a year.
Right wing back, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Like Mazraoui could cover there for a year. Ahmad can still interchange between 10 and right wing back as well. Crucial areas. Quality on the left, massively lacking. Left wing back in. Another 10, because I think we will let go of Rashford. I think he will go. Another 9, as much as Rasmus is doing it, we still need another option there, a guarantee. And I think he needs the legs. I think you've alluded to this before, Alice, at 8. I think we need another 8 to a bit of competition to rotate, because if we are going to be up and down and the 6 and the 8 are going to be so pivotal, I don't think Mainu can play 90 minutes week in, week out, twice a week.
We need someone with the best of Mainu and the best of a guy combined, which is, I think you spoke about it, like Bruno, it's not going to happen, but Bruno Guimaraes can do what Mainu does on the ball and what a guy does off the ball.
I noticed he was in the top central midfielders value-wise in the planet right now. Someone did
we need.
Yeah,
I would drop 80 million on him, and I don't want to spend more than 60 million on any player in the summer, because I think we've got 5 positions, as you said, to really get to. But I would drop 80 million on Bruno Guimaraes. I would 100%.
That's like guaranteed, isn't it? It's like Gyökeres, isn't it? It's that type of player. You're like, why we can't spend this amount of money? Well, you can on the right
He's got
player.
everything you want, like experience, work rate, technical ability, physical ability. I
Goals,
think
everything. Yep, he's got the lot.
He's honestly so good. But yeah, thank you so much, Adam, for coming on. Just to let the viewers know, where can they find you?
Always on Forever United TV on YouTube. If you just search up FUTV Adam, I'll be there. So yeah, catch me on there with strong opinions and upsetting a few people every now and then as well. Also, guys, make sure you can see Alice is only what away, Alice? Now is it?
Oh, I think I'm like 800 subscribers away, or 830.
That's the one. She's there, nearly at the 100K.
Close.
Silver play is there, so make sure you give the video a like, and more importantly, hit the subscribe button for Alice as well.
Thank you very much, Adam. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you check out Adam's channel and show him some support. See you guys later. Bye.